As the new school year begins, our MC Tabata Ren, a second-year high schooler, decides to make a change. Tired of living life of a nobody, he wants to make new friends. But for that, choosing the right place to sit is crucial. It could shape his future. And so he takes his first step. He enters the classroom, picks a seat, and places his bag there. A girl nearby glances up, her expression quietly puzzled, and asks, "What?" Slightly flustered, Tabata mutters that it's nothing and instantly regrets using his vocal cords. With her cold reaction, she asks again if something is wrong, and he quickly replies that nothing is, though in his mind he wants to start a conversation. He points out that the best part of sitting in the back row is avoiding the teacher's radar. That girl, still expressionless, responds that maybe that's true. Tabata, trying to support his point, adds that the back seats are actually better than the rest. The girl's constant blank expressions make him increasingly nervous. He feels like she's staring at him a bit too harshly. And maybe he thinks he picked the wrong person to talk to. At this point, Tabata is 60% sure he just made eye contact with death. While he is lost in these thoughts, she asks if he's going to sit or not. Startled, he quickly apologizes for bothering her and takes the seat. Only after sitting does he realize he got anxious and sat right in front of her. Seeing Tabata so flustered, she calmly asks if he actually meant to sit in her seat. The question makes him break into a sweat again. His brain quietly applies for sick leave. He awkwardly admits he was just being a bit stupid, apologizes, and tells her there's no need to worry. Now our boy starts thinking he might have made that cold girl angry. To him, she seems dark and a bit scary. He assumed the conversation began smoothly, but now it just feels like a total misfire. Just then, as the teacher enters the class, and Bro forgets the greeting he memorized. At that moment, he sees that cold girl stand up behind him and introduce herself to the class as Toko Sasaki, asking everyone to treat her well. When the teacher walks in and greets the Class 2B, she declares that they'll need 2 representatives, 1 boy and 1 girl, to be chosen by a vote. But since she's a new homeroom teacher, she can't make a fair choice herself, so she asks for volunteers. Upon hearing this, Tabata senses an opportunity. If he's ever going to turn things around, now's the time. He raises his hand, volunteering as class representative. He tries to sound confident, but is a nervous wreck. The teacher seems pleased and announces she's happy to work with both of them. Confused, Tabata wonders who the second person is. When he turns around, he sees Sasaki has raised her hand too, surprising him. The teacher, pleased with both of them, wraps up by saying that's all for now and begins sharing the class schedule. Meanwhile, Tabata keeps thinking he never expected Sasaki to volunteer as a class representative. He's not sure whether this is a blessing or a curse, but then it clicks. Maybe this is the perfect chance to step up and finally connect with people. The moment the thought crosses his mind, he quickly turns and calls Sasaki-san, catching her off guard. Trying to keep it casual, Tabata states that since they're both class reps now, he's hoping they'll make a good team from here on out. Sasaki glances around briefly, then responds in the same cold tone, barely nodding as she murmurs to treat her well. Hearing this, Tabata is left surprised, not sure if that is a compliment or a threat wrapped in politeness. After saying that, she walks out of the classroom. Tabata, still surprised by her reaction, thinks things actually went better than expected. At least he didn't leave a bad impression. He imagined she might tell him not to get too familiar with her. Now that school is about to end, Tabata sits quietly, reflecting on the day. A lot has happened, and he feels like most things are going just fine. He's never been a class representative before. He knows it'll take effort. As he stretches casually in his seat, he suddenly feels his hand grab onto something soft. He feels a bit weird and turns to look, only to realize his hand has accidentally touched Sasaki. His face turns bright red and he starts to panic, completely frozen. And just like that, puberty filed a harassment complaint. Meanwhile, Sasaki stays exactly where she is, her expression still as cold and unreadable as ever. Tabata stammers out clumsy excuses, insisting the teacher could walk in any moment, but Sasaki silently gets up and walks out of the room. Our lad sits there, trembling, thinking that Sasaki's impression of him has probably just nosedived. The scene shifts to Tabata and Sasaki sitting across from each other. Tabata thinks their duties as class representatives officially begin today, and for some reason, they've ended up face-to-face because of an emergency meeting. Now Tabata recalls something from yesterday on his way home, something that's been bothering him. The teacher informs him that if no one had stepped up, she was actually planning to count on Tuko to take the role of class representative. Tabata realizes he signed up at the exact moment Sasaki did, completely by accident. Bro's timing is so accidental, even fate looks confused, and now he's unsure if that was a good thing or a bad one. The next day, the teacher enters the class and announces that while the class representatives have been chosen, there's still one more thing left to decide. The teacher now asks the class who wants to be the class president, and a girl immediately volunteers. Tabata is surprised. He knows the real reason he and Sasaki were called to that private meeting was to decide the class president together. His dreams vanish faster than free Wi-Fi at a school event, as now he realizes the teacher lied to him and already had someone else in mind. He also knows this is the first time in his entire life he's ever sat face-to-face with someone like Sasaki, even if just for a short while. In the brief time the teacher gave them during the meeting, Tabata and Sasaki hardly exchanged more than a few words. Tabata broke the ice, saying he wanted to become class president, but Sasaki replied that the role should go to someone truly deserving. She added that she only volunteered to challenge herself and learn to handle responsibility. She then tells Tabata that she doesn't think he's fit for the role. Bro feels personally attacked, professionally roasted, and spiritually dizzy. He is suddenly taken aback and asks what she just said. His body stiffens in panic. Sasaki calmly asks if she strike a chord. Emotional damage with a certificate. Tabata quickly replies that it's nothing like that. He's just surprised, wondering why she is suddenly saying something like this. Suddenly, Sasaki stands up from her seat and leans in, her face now incredibly close to Tabata's. She tells him to look into her eyes. His soul temporarily exits his body to avoid eye contact. Blushing, he thinks it's hard to meet her gaze, and maybe it's safer to look somewhere else. Sasaki tells him that whether it's seriously looking someone in the eyes or holding a real conversation, Tabata isn't good at either. That's why, she says, she's perfect for the role of class president. Bro's ego takes another gentle slap, served cold with a side of logic. But he insists he's right for the role too. After all, he also volunteered willingly. During the meeting, Tabata and Sasaki argue over who should be the class president and who shouldn't, while the teacher calmly naps nearby, completely unbothered. After the meeting, when both of them approach the teacher, she tells them that if they both want it, she can make them both class presidents. It doesn't really matter, she says. There's no strict rule from the authorities that only one person has to hold the position. With that, she thanks them for their time and sends them on their way. From behind him, Sasaki remarks that honestly, it would have been easier if just one of them had taken the class president role. Tabata looks puzzled, so she clarifies being class reps already means a lot of responsibility, and if they can't communicate well, things could get messy. That's why she wants them to talk more and get comfortable with each other. Tabata nods and says he'll give it his best shot. After all this, Tabata thinks there's a gloomy atmosphere around Sasaki, but deep inside, she isn't actually that shy. He realizes he'll have to be careful not to cause any unnecessary trouble for her. Meanwhile, Sasaki recalls Tabata's words about giving their best as the class council. Her thoughts linger on one word, together. Sasaki, after thinking for a moment, says she's not quite sure how to work with Tabata. Meanwhile, he feels puzzled. Things aren't clicking the way he hoped, and he just can't seem to build a proper conversation with her. He grows tense. He had planned to discuss a lot with Sasaki, but her cold reactions leave him unsure of what to do. He knows their friendship won't build easily. Just then, he overhears some classmates talking about an upcoming game event. An idea clicks. This could be the perfect topic to start a real conversation with Sasaki. Before speaking, Tabata wonders aloud if Sasaki even knows about the game. She replies she doesn't play it but likes the art and might try it. Tabata, who also plays it for the artwork, feels genuinely happy. He's finally started a real conversation with her. Bro acts like he just won the lottery for saying 5 normal words to a girl. As Tabata walks through the corridor, he suddenly gets a Lime message from his sister. After reading it, he wonders if Sasaki even has a Lime ID. He thinks about asking her, but maybe it's too soon. His overthinking is like he's about to propose instead of ask for a chat app. While he's still debating it, Sasaki passes by in front of him, and he thinks, speak of her, and there she is. Just as he's considering going up to her, his class teacher suddenly steps in and stands beside him. Tabata doesn't notice, and his teacher suddenly speaks up from behind, asking what he's doing there. Hearing her voice, he panics and stumbles, falling straight towards Sasaki. His phone slips from his hand, and Sasaki catches it. But in the rush, Tabata accidentally stumbles forward, and his face lands right against her. Our boy fumbles harder than his grades during finals. Both Sasaki and the teacher witness the scene, standing there in awkward shock. Tabata doesn't move an inch, still frozen as he processes the awkward situation. Trying to figure out what to do, he first forces himself to calm down. He reminds his heart it wasn't his fault. The teacher's sudden voice startled him. Now he tells himself he needs to find a way out of this. Tabata is still stuck in the same awkward position when he suddenly asks Sasaki if she uses Lime, and if she does, could she share her phone number? He literally didn't even hesitate for once. She replies that she does use it, but if he wants the number, he'll first need to get away from her. Tabata feels genuinely happy. Finally, someone outside his family is saved in his line contacts. To him, he unlocked a new achievement of chess collision and contact info as a reward. He thanks Sasaki, but she quickly walks away. Tabata senses the distance between them might have grown a bit, but still, only he knows the true cost of getting that number. As she walks away, Sasaki glances at her phone, and the same thought crosses her mind. The cost of sharing that number was definitely high, but still, for the first time, she saved someone's contact outside her family. The next day, on his way to school, Tabata keeps thinking. He did exchange numbers with Sasaki, but everything else feels messed up. He doubts they'll get any closer. Still, he stops himself from thinking negatively and hopes things will go well. He plans to apologize when he sees her. As he reaches the classroom, he spots Sasaki standing near the gate. Now both of them are stuck in an awkward moment. She looks at him with a cold face, while Tabata breaks into a nervous sweat. Neither can bring themselves to say even a basic good morning. Their movements sync so awkwardly that neither of them can step aside. Rose playing emotional DDR and still missing every step. Sasaki finally pauses and asks what's wrong. Tabata replies that she should forget about it. As he sees her start to walk away, he asks if she's in a hurry. Sasaki calmly says there's nothing like that. Tabata simply apologizes once more for what happened earlier and walks away. Just then, he bumps into their class teacher, who hurriedly tells him not to waste time. They need to head to homeroom right away because it's about to start. He just unlocked the Late Again side quest. As Tabata starts to leave, he notices Sasaki seems unusually distracted. He walks over and asks if something's bothering her. Sasaki replies that it's nothing. It feels normal to Tabata, so he decides to go, but just as he turns, she grabs his hand. Startled, Tabata begins to panic, unsure of what this means. Bro's brain blue-screened with zero emotional tech support. Sasaki tells him she's not angry at him, so he doesn't need to keep apologizing. And as she says this, her cold expression softens, just enough to show a faint blush. Boy's heart just did a triple backflip into confusion and hope. Tabata freezes. This isn't what he expected. He thought one thing, but Sasaki said something completely different. Still, feeling a bit relieved, he tells her it's just a habit of his, but he won't do it next time. Then he thanks her sincerely. He tells Sasaki once again that he really needs to change his habit of apologizing to everyone. He says sorry so much, even sorry is getting tired. In his heart, he admits Sasaki has truly surprised him, but this has been their best conversation so far. And now he hopes he'll get to know even more about her. As class begins, a student approaches Sasaki and hands her the day's printout. Sasaki takes it, but her cold, unreadable stare startles the girl, who quickly slips away like she just triggered a boss fight. Afterward, Tabata tells Sasaki not to worry about it. She stands by her desk, unfazed, saying she doesn't care. Watching her, Tabata can't help but wonder why people find her so hard to approach. To be fair, he felt the same way at first. She is intimidating. Even now, she rarely speaks, keeps to herself, and doesn't seem to have any close friends. Her communication isn't the best, and it hits him. Maybe she's just like him, completely alone. And here he thought he held the copyright on lonely main character energy. As he's deep in thought, a classmate leans in and whispers something that sounds like gossip, then slips him a printout. Too nervous to hand it to Sasaki directly, the classmate asks Tabata to do it instead, treating him like he's part of some emotional bomb squad. Tabata calls the classmate back and tells him Sasaki might seem gloomy, but she isn't a bad person. Every time they talk, she's clear, direct, and more proper than people give her credit for. Just as he finishes, a hand lands on his shoulder. He turns to see Sasaki standing behind him with the same cold stare. She says it's time to collect the printouts, and in that moment, Tabata mentally says goodbye to his dignity, peace, and GPA. They move around the class, gathering the papers. Tabata notices how hesitant everyone is to approach Sasaki. She ends up doing most of the work herself, politely brushing him off every time he tries to help. He finds it strange. They're supposed to be working together on the class committee, but it feels like they're miles apart. The vibe is less teamwork and more like a divorced couple trying to co-parent a spreadsheet. Before he can say more, a girl calls out to Sasaki, hands her the final stack of papers, and thanks her, saying she's counting on them. Watching them talk, Tabata feels a sense of relief. Maybe Sasaki does connect with others, just not in the way he expected. Seeing the interaction gives him hope. At least she's speaking to someone. As he watches, Sasaki asks if he's happy. He says he isn't, not really. Then she asks why he's smiling. Out of habit, he apologizes again. The next day, Tabata sets up collection boxes in the classroom. Sasaki asks why, and he explains it'll make it easier for students to turn in their printouts. She gets the sense that maybe he's starting to care. But then he adds that the idea came from the classmate, Higashitani-kun, who's scared of her, causing her to recall his face silently. Somewhere, that poor guy feels an unexplained chill down his spine. Later, while walking through the corridor, Tabata spots Sasaki standing outside the staff room, holding some printouts. Curious, he asks what's going on. She explains she's waiting there on the teacher's request. She tells him she wanted to handle it alone, which is why she came herself, collected all the printouts, and even completed yesterday's teacher report on her own. Tabata finds it all a bit strange. Bro is out here realizing he signed up for teamwork but showed up to a one-woman army. Feeling guilty, he apologizes to Sasaki, saying he's too clumsy and not pulling his weight. Sasaki simply says it's not a problem. After that, Tabata tells Sasaki that if anything's on her mind, she should share it. He'll do his best to help, because he wants them to work together. Sasaki pauses for a moment, then looks at him and asks what exactly he means by together. And just like that, our boy's wholesome speech gets cross-examined like a courtroom drama. She then tells him that since they're already part of the class committee, he shouldn't say things like working together as if that's what will make things function. He should already be used to guidance from her. Tabata, sensing the confusion, quickly tries to clarify that's not what he meant. With her usual cold expression, she questions Tabata. If he isn't good with people, then why did he even join the class committee? He just got hit with an emotional math test and forgot all the formulas. After that, she turns back to her printouts, while Tabata stands there, suddenly nervous and sweating. He hesitates for a moment, then quietly replies that the real reason was he just wanted to make a friend. Until now, he's never really had any, never been able to. Joining the class committee felt like a good chance to finally talk to someone, to change something in his life. This is either a coming-of-age moment or the start of another sad boy arc. He clarifies further, saying his main goal was simply to understand people better. But Sasaki gives him a cold stare and asks again, if he's really not good with people, does he truly want to know them? Tabata quietly nods and says yes. He says he joined the class committee mainly to understand Sasaki better, thinking it'd be good if they worked together. But now he apologizes, feeling he hasn't done his part well. Sasaki simply calls him weird, and Tabata panics, blurting out random things. His social battery just caught fire mid-conversation. After all this, Sasaki tells him she's been working alone with the teacher since last year. She's used to it, and it's not his fault. She knows how to handle things on her own, but if she ever needs help, she'll call him. Tabata, still unsure, wonders if Sasaki might actually be like him, or just the opposite. He asks her what she's holding, and Sasaki tells him they're the printouts for this week's deadline to be submitted to the teacher. Tabata looks at her, slightly surprised, and points out that they're actually for next week. The teacher had already gotten angry at him earlier for the same mistake, and that's why he was looking for Sasaki, to let her know in time. Hearing this, Sasaki suddenly gets upset and steps closer, demanding why he didn't tell her earlier. Tabata, startled, panics and quickly apologizes, admitting he should have informed her before. After that, the two head to the teacher together and reattach the correct printouts under her supervision. The next day, as Sasaki enters the classroom, she finds Tabata asleep at his desk. She stands silently, glaring at him with her usual sharp stare, enough to startle nearby students. Just then, the class teacher arrives and announces she needs both of them during lunch for a small favor. Sasaki reaches toward Tabata to wake him, but pauses when she hears him muttering in his sleep, apologizing to her even in his dreams. She watches, surprised, thinking to herself that even in sleep, he's doing the same thing he does in real life. He's out here speedrunning regret, awake and unconscious. She ends up lifting the books alone for the teacher's favor. She realizes now she knows exactly why the teacher wanted both of them. Due to the weight of the box, she now thinks she should have brought Tabata along. She may be cold, but physics doesn't care about personality. Just then, her foot hits something. She trips, and the books slip from her arms. They scatter across the ground. But before she falls, Tabata grabs her by the shoulder. Our boy woke up from a nap and immediately unlocked hero mode. She looks up at him stunned. Tabata gently helps her up and asks if she's okay. She says nothing, just stares at him in silence, then abruptly stands and brushes his hands off, insisting she's fine. It's the scariest, rudest way of expressing, "Please don't touch me," he's ever experienced. Still smiling, Tabata says he's just glad she didn't fall. He looks at the books scattered on the ground and asks what she's doing here. She explains the teacher had told her to help, actually had told both of them, but she came alone. Tabata asks why she didn't call him. Frustrated, she snaps that he was sleeping in class, and she didn't feel like waking him. Tabata apologizes again, and she forgives him. She admits it's partly her fault too, that her attitude might have caused this. As Tabata starts picking up the books, he remarks how heavy they are and insists he'll handle them himself. Sasaki hesitates and asks if he'll really carry them. When he says yes, she apologizes and hands over a book. Tabata tells her there's no need to say sorry. 5 seconds later, Bro's living inside a mountain of textbooks, which Sasaki gives him, piling them so high that Tabata can't even see the way ahead. He's left wondering if this is really their job, to run errands like this for the teacher, and finds it all a bit absurd. Somehow, this wasn't in the class committee brochure. The school day ends, and they exchange brief goodbyes before parting ways. Tabata thinks Sasaki's finally reached a point where he can treat her normally, but as he steps outside, he notices the heavy rain and sees Sasaki walking straight into it alone. She's literally built different, walking through the storm like it owes her money. He calls out to her from behind, asking where her umbrella is, but she doesn't hear him, so he calls her back inside, saying he wants to talk. Once she steps in, he asks again, and she explains the rental umbrellas had run out, and she forgot to bring hers. Besides, her bags inside is dry, so she doesn't really need one. Seeing how soaked she is, he tells her she should call someone from home, but she says no one's there at this hour. Knowing he can't really share the umbrella with her, Tabata quietly hands it to her, because at least that he can do. She refuses to take it, knowing that if she does, he will get soaked and might catch a cold. Tabata points out that if she stays like this, she could get sick too. He's trying to win a battle of modesty while both of them freeze to death. As he stands there, unsure what to do, Obara-san suddenly walks by. Tabata quickly turns to Obara and asks if she can stay with Sasaki for a bit. He's out here handing off social responsibilities like a relay baton. Then he asks Sasaki if she has any spare clothes. She shakes her head, saying even those would get wet, so it's fine like this. But Tabata insists she should change. Just then, he rushes off toward a corner with a sudden idea. She changes into a sports jersey, and Obara tells her she should dry her wet clothes once she gets home. Then she asks where Tabata is, but neither of them knows. Just then, they hear him calling out to them. Tabata comes running back, drenched in sweat, and hands Sasaki a glistening umbrella. He says he borrowed it from someone. Sasaki asks who, and, surprised, repeats her question when he says a friend. Tabata shrugs and says it was just some guy he knows. Sasaki notices his loose shoes and how much he's sweating. It's clear he ran quite a distance. She takes the umbrella, thanks him, and says she'll see him tomorrow. Tabata nods, thinking the same. Then she walks away. Tabata thinks he's glad Sasaki now has an umbrella, but when Sasaki flips it over, she notices a price tag still attached. She immediately thinks, this boy doesn't even know how to lie properly. Bro really said, "I have a friend," then forgot to remove the barcode. Seriously? Just then, she spots Obara roaming around in a raincoat. Before Sasaki can ask, Obara cuts in, saying she's just a raincoat type of girl. She's dodging questions like it's an optional quiz. The next day at school, during lunch, Tabata sits alone in a corner, quietly eating. Suddenly, he hears a voice. He turns, and there stands Sasaki-san. Seeing her, he instantly panics. Tabata asks what she's doing here. She replies that if he's done with lunch, they should go, because she's been following him. His lunch break just turned into a surprise interrogation. She'd noticed he always disappears during lunch and wanted to know why. Bro, really out here treating school like a stealth mission. Tabata explains he comes here because not many people do. Sasaki asks Tabata if he's still feeling anxious about what happened earlier. He denies it, saying that's not the reason. But Sasaki can tell from his expression, she reads his face easily. And to understand why, we'll have to go back to what happened just before lunch. Earlier, the Class A president, Onuma, enters the room with the vice president, Murai. They start grading everyone and eventually walk up to Sasaki, having learned she's the representative of this class. But then the vice president mentions that this class has 2 representatives. Onuma looks past Sasaki and spots Tabata sitting behind her. He's visibly surprised. The class president looks straight at Tabata and says he seems boring. He didn't expect him to be a class rep. That was less feedback and more drive by insult. On his way out, he adds that if he needs guidance, he can ask him. He's just become a president after all. Now Sasaki gets it. This is why Tabata's been sitting here alone, anxious. So he tells Sasaki that honestly he's been worried. He's never been a class representative before, and it's been tough for him. He's trying his best, but he doesn't feel like he's living up to everyone's expectations. For now, that's all he can really say. To cheer him up, Sasaki says, does he know food always feels better before you eat it? Tabata doesn't get it. He just got hit with the weirdest TD talk he's ever heard. So she explains, before eating, food seems super tasty, but once it's in your stomach, you barely feel anything. It almost feels like a waste. Just like that, she says, listening to people's opinions doesn't matter. Thinking too much about things you don't fully understand is pointless. Everyone's built differently, and picking apart someone's small flaws isn't really a good thing. Tabata realizes he over-apologizes and overthinks, and maybe it's time to change that. As Sasaki finishes and turns to leave, he calls out, asking if she came just to cheer him up. She stops and says no. Actually, yes, but she's emotionally allergic to admitting it. He gives a small smile, knowing she's worried, even if she won't show it, and somehow that thought lifts his mood a little. The next day, the Class A president returns, saying he couldn't properly greet them last time. Just then, the teacher thanks Tabata for helping with the documents, and he says she can always ask again. As he stands there, a classmate, who's usually scared of Sasaki, walks over and hands Tabata his printout. While handing over the printout, the classmate says he won't be late next time and will be more careful. Seeing that everyone is a bit busy, the Class A president and vice president decide to come back later. Before leaving, Onuma apologizes to Tabata for being rude the previous day. It's the kind of apology that sounds sincere, but also feels like a PR move. As they walk off, Tabata and Sasaki quietly agree Class A sure has a lot of free time on their hands. The next day in class, Obara walks up to Sasaki and asks if she's free, and if she knows where Bata-kun is. Sasaki, confused, says she doesn't know. Obara pauses, realizing she should have just asked him directly. Sasaki, still puzzled, asks who Bata is. Obara explains it's just her nickname for Tabata, based on his funny habits. Right then, he walks in, and Obara greets him with the nickname. He looks confused, but she states she likes how it sounds, so she's sticking with it. He's just unlocked a nickname, like a side quest reward. Tabata freezes. It's the first time anyone's ever given him a nickname. Sasaki and Obara both notice him tense up, and when they ask if he's okay, he says nothing. Internally, he's quietly emotional, happy to have made a friend. This emotional update came without warning. Obara leans in and suggests Sasaki call him by the nickname too. Sasaki, feeling she's a bit too close, rushes it off, saying she won't. Meanwhile, Tabata knows Sasaki hasn't even used his real name before. No way she'd ever use a nickname. If that happens, the world's probably ending. Obara then asks Sasaki if she has a nickname. Tabata watches quietly, amazed at how naturally Obara-san says things that would take him years. The boy needs ChatGPT Pro just to express a basic feeling. Sasaki says she doesn't, then, after a pause, adds that when she was little, her family used to call her Toichi. Even with her cold expression, the memory seems to warm her just a little. It's the most human she's looked all day. She blushes slightly, and Tabata quietly takes note. Obara immediately hugs Sasaki, saying the name is cute. Tabata watches, surprised at how quickly Obara is getting close to her, friendship leveling faster than the plot allows. As Sasaki smiles faintly, Tabata realizes it's the first time he's seen that expression from her. When she glances his way, he quickly looks away. Obara asks if she can call her Toichi, and Sasaki says she doesn't mind. No one calls her that anymore, so one person won't make a difference. Tabata's impressed. Obara makes friendships look easy. He wishes it could be like that with Sasaki. But before he can finish the thought, Sasaki tells him never to call him by a nickname. He agrees with a half-smile, rejected in a conversation he wasn't even trying to win. At the end of the school day, students begin cleaning. Tabata notices Sasaki and Obara working together on the blackboard. His thoughts drift to what she said earlier, how her family used to call her Toichi. He realizes she's probably closer to her family than he is to his own. Jealousy unlocks like a hidden DLC. While sweeping, Obara comes over and casually says Sasaki feels pretty big. Tabata agrees, yeah, she seems big, and kind of delicate. Obara pauses, confused, and repeats his words back at him. He immediately panics. Verbal defeat. Speed run complete. Obara teases him, asking what exactly he meant. Flustered, Tabata tries to explain, but she leans in and jokingly asks a personal question. His soul exits the chat. He tells her to stop imagining weird stuff, but somehow still ends up feeling guilty. Suddenly, someone taps him on the shoulder. It's Sasaki standing behind him with her usual icy stare, like a final boss entering mid-cutscene. She reminds him he should be cleaning. Both Obara and Tabata go pale. When he tries to explain, Sasaki flips the question. He looks distracted. He denies it, but she adds that the teacher asked them to stay back again. She's not stalking him, but the timing always suggests otherwise. He's surprised, but also knows she's been paying attention. Later, while cleaning, Tabata gets a message from his sister asking him to come home early. But he knows there's no reason to. He and his sister barely talk. Sasaki notices and tells him to leave if he has things to do, her tone flat as always. By the time he gets home, it's already night. He tries to sneak into his room, but his sister's voice makes him jump. She asks why he didn't reply to her message or come home earlier. She's noticed a pattern. He's been staying out late, leaving early. What's going on? Tabata brushes it off, saying it's nothing she'd understand. The words hit her harder than expected. She wants to say more, but before she can, he shuts his door. She stands there in silence, realizing just how invisible his loneliness has become. He's not angry, he just emotionally rage-quit the conversation. In his room, Tabata sits in silence. Ever since his sister moved in, she's been stricter, always talking about school and being responsible. Because of that, he never had time to make friends or just be a normal student. And now, if he told her about the class council, she'd probably tell him to quit. But deep down, he knows this might be his last shot at making real connections. Outside his door, Tabata's sister, Suzu, stands frozen, gripped by worry. She replays the moment over and over. Did her brother just get angry at her? Is he starting to hate her? The thought shakes her, because when it comes to Tabata, she carries a quiet, constant fear. Turns out both siblings are living separate dramas under the same roof. The next day, walking through the school corridor, Tabata thinks about how he doesn't have much to do today, and even if he goes home early, he won't stay there long. While running an errand for a teacher, he suddenly collides with Sasaki, and both tumble to the floor. He finds himself on the ground with Sasaki, her gloomy face faintly blushing. His soul leaves his body and files for emotional trauma. He can feel the weight of her against him, and after a long, awkward silence, he finally mutters an apology. Then Sasaki forms a small circle with her fingers and asks if he's seen a steel badge that size. Her expression somehow gets even scarier. Tabata isn't sure if she's looking for a badge or casting a curse, but he says he hasn't seen it. Sasaki explains it was a gift from her family, something very important. They notice nearby students whispering. High school gossip spreads faster than morning announcements. Both get up quickly. Tabata tells her that if he finds the badge, he'll let her know. Sasaki nods and heads off to search elsewhere. Realizing how much it means to her, Tabata decides to help look too. After school, he searches all over campus, but the badge is nowhere to be found. He starts to grow anxious. Finding something that small in a place this big feels hopeless. Just when he's about to give up, his foot bumps into something, the badge. But before he can grab it, Mireille suddenly steps in and picks it up. She holds it up and asks if it's his, her intense stare unsettling him. He recognizes her from Class A and instantly feels uneasy, like this side quest just spawned a final boss. Without much conversation, he takes the badge and bolts. Meanwhile, Sasaki, tired from searching, hears Tabata call her. He walks over and hands her the badge. She jolts, snatches it from his hand, and firmly confirms it's hers. Tabata, a little nervous, smiles faintly and says he found it tucked away in a corner. Clutching the badge to her chest, Sasaki blushes and softly thanks him. Tabata watches her in silence, his brain lagging like it's stuck on dial-up. He then asks if she's close to her family. Sasaki nods, saying she likes them a lot. Tabata's expression shifts. He admits he's happy she found the badge, but also a little jealous. That's one way to trauma dump in broad daylight. As he turns to leave, Sasaki asks what he meant. Tabata explains that he has an older sister, but their relationship has never been great. Then he realizes he's oversharing and quickly apologizes. Sasaki asks if maybe he actually likes his sister. Maybe the jealousy comes from hidden affection. Tabata, confused and flustered, struggles to understand her angle. She tells him to face it properly. If that's how he feels, he should talk to his sister. Tabata nods and thanks her just as she turns to leave. She thanks him back for finding something important, and they quietly part ways. Tabata comes home late and heads straight to his sister. He calls out to her loudly, catching her off guard, then immediately apologizes for what he said the day before. His apology volume is set to public broadcast. His sister freezes, then pouts, saying she doesn't care about him anymore and that she's not stupid. She knows he's grown up, but her rambling gives her away. Tabata can tell she only talks like this when she's panicking. Her mouth says I'm fine, but her tone says serious final. He apologizes again, grateful in his heart, but she only replies with teasing remarks. Suddenly, Tabata says he wants to share something. He joined the class committee with a girl. The moment she hears that, her big sister mode activates like a triggered alarm. She demands details. What girl? Who is she? Tabata tries to explain it's just for school, but she's clearly not convinced. The next day, Tabata tells Sasaki everything. After listening, she bluntly asks if he brought her here just to say that. Tabata admits he just wanted to talk to her alone. Man really scheduled a vent session like it was a therapy appointment. Sasaki asks if he told his sister he liked her. Tabata freezes and she immediately realizes the answer. He fumbles, saying it's still hard to say things like that, but he feels they're slowly improving. Sasaki tells him that's a good thing for both of them. He starts to think maybe she genuinely wants him and his sister to get along. Then, out of nowhere, Obara appears and teasingly asks if they're having a romantic chat. Tabata panics, denying it hard enough to flunk a polygraph. He fumbles the denial like he's at the school sports day. Suddenly, he remembers the teacher had called him during lunch and dashes off. Sasaki and Obara are left behind. Obara, a bit surprised, says she didn't know they talked here like this. She thanks Sasaki for being there for Tabata, helping him through his problems. Sasaki stays silent, then calmly asks who Obara thinks is Tabata's friend. Caught off guard, Obara says she assumes Sasaki and Tabata were friends. Sasaki, still wearing her cold expression, asks if that's really how it looks. Obara instantly panics. One glance at Sasaki's face says it all. You're wrong. Her confidence packs up and leaves. Before she can respond, Sasaki adds that Tabata probably feels the same way about her. The silence that follows is heavier than the moment deserves. Just then, Tabata returns and says the teacher actually called both of them. Sasaki reminds him she said they should go together. Seeing the two of them talk, Obara laughs softly. Tabata asks what's funny, but Sasaki tells him not to worry about it. Her poker face is so sharp, even her jokes feel like lawsuits. The next morning, Sasaki gets ready for school after an early shower, while her mom calls out from the other room, reminding her not to be late. She has to leave for work today. Just then, she steps out of the bathroom, drying her hair. She puts on her uniform skirt and belt, and her eyes fall on a black cat nearby. Seeing the cat, a smile appears on her face. She quickly walks over, cuddles it tightly, plays with it for a moment, then steps out of the house to head to school. These days, the sun feels extra bright, shining at its peak. As she steps outside and looks up with her usual cold expression, she suddenly remembers she forgot to apply sunscreen today. At school, Tabata sits battling the same heat. He's thankful he wore lighter clothes today, though it's still unbearably hot. As soon as Sasaki takes her seat, she greets him with a good morning. But one glance at her face, and Tabata instantly sees it. She's completely drained by the heat, like someone about to melt or boil over. Girl looks like a popsicle that lost the will to live. Even he, despite enduring the same weather, can't figure out what exactly hit her so hard. Obara walks into class with a playful good morning, noting how the heat feels like summer already. Obara enters like summer break in human form. When Tabata asks what's so great about that, she says she loves summer. There's so much to do. She then turns to Sasaki and suggests going out, but she doesn't move from her seat. Sasaki simply lifts her head and says the heat makes her feel weak, her face dripping with sweat. Even her cold aura's on summer vacation. Tabata agrees, he's not a fan of summer either. Obara realizes this season feels unfamiliar to both of them, but they'll get used to it. She talks like she's got a friendship contract with the weather. She then asks about winter. Without hesitation, Sasaki reveals she loves that season for life. That was faster than her line reply. Just then, the teacher arrives, asking everyone to take their seats. After school, Tabata and Sasaki sit together, setting up the new seating chart. Machida walks in and casually drops a bomb. Everyone's saying they seem like a real couple. Somewhere inside, Tabata's brain blue screens, but he calmly denies it, saying they're just friends. Sasaki turns her cold gaze to Machida like she's testing that claim. Her stare could melt steel or souls. Machida insists it really does seem that way. Tabata explains they're just handling class duties, reshuffling seats per the teacher's request, alongside the new uniform policy. Machida asks if he's just doing this to avoid effort. Tabata says no, the teacher assigned it, and it's actually kind of a pain. She turns to Sasaki and offers help if she ever needs it, but Sasaki coldly declines. As Machida leaves, she wishes them luck, like a side character who knows she just advanced the plot. Tabata notices Sasaki looking at him and says she seems to think he's made new friends. He denies it. They're not that close, but Sasaki says from her perspective they are. Tabata admits he doesn't talk much to anyone, except her. She looks away, falling quiet. Then she asks if he really has no other friends. Her tone is cold, but the question lands deeper. Tabata says that once the seating changes, he might end up alone again. Joining the class council and sitting next to her was a coincidence, but one he's come to appreciate. Sasaki concludes that means he's still alone. Tabata agrees. If not for her, he'd have no one. But thanks to that coincidence, he found at least one person he can talk to. Without reacting much, Sasaki stands up. Tabata asks what's wrong, and she says she's finished her part and leaves the rest to him. Tabata quietly says he's done too. The teacher announces the new seating plan the following day. Tabata's placed by the window. Obara's seat is right behind him, and she teases him about how close their spots are. Then he turns and sees Sasaki sitting behind him again. He's shocked. He asks if she's really seated there again. Sasaki replies, "Looks like it. Destiny must have its own shipping list." She leans forward slightly and tells Tabata to look out for her. He nods, but before he can say more, Obara clings to Sasaki, excited they're next to each other. Tabata, meanwhile, quietly worries. It's hot, and being by the window might be rough for Sasaki. Even the sun seems to have beef with her icy aura. It's an especially hot day. Obara turns her mini fan towards Sasaki, and Sasaki finds it surprisingly nice. For once, the breeze isn't from dramatic exits. Tabata leans over and says a teacher wants to see them both after school. Machida arrives, late and flustered, asking if she can submit her form. Tabata nods. She then scolds them about staying late again before walking off. Obara and Sasaki exchange subtle glances. Machida leaves like someone who thinks she runs the school. Later, Machida returns, casually chatting with Tabata. After she leaves, Obara looks puzzled and asks if he knows her. Tabata says they studied together last year, but he's noticed she's been talking more lately. He says it like he just discovered gravity. Obara nods. She gets the picture. Obara later pulls Machida aside and says she's getting a bit too involved. Machida laughs, asking what she means. Obara says to give them space. They're growing closer. Hearing that, Machida immediately thinks of Sasaki, who can't help but smile quietly. Machida apologizes, saying she just finds the whole thing interesting. Two quiet people gradually getting close. It's like watching introverts on exhibit. But she adds that Obara clings to Sasaki just as much. Obara grows hesitant at that. Machida agrees to give them space. Obara adds that they'll now just observe from a distance. Machida, curious, asks if they really mean just friends. Sasaki confirms it. Then Machida wonders aloud if she and Obara are even friends. Obara says for now they're just classmates. Sasaki walks past, overhearing just enough to wonder what on earth they're talking about, but decides to keep moving. Then Tabata calls out. He's going for lunch and asks Sasaki to join him. She says someone's already in their usual spot, so it's best to avoid it. Tabata shrugs and decides to eat in the classroom. As he turns away, Sasaki notices something off in his expression. She quietly asks about his lunch. It's store-bought again. Tabata explains that he lives with his sister, and since neither of them can cook, they rely on convenience store food. He admits he'd like to learn to cook someday. Sasaki shares that she often cooks for her older brother, who also eats out a lot. To Tabata's surprise, he never knew she had a brother. She nods and after a short pause offers to teach him how to cook. But before the moment can settle, Machida interrupts, followed by Obara. They mention they were just talking about this. Tabata finds it strange seeing them together and asks Sasaki what she was saying earlier. Sasaki brushes it off. She only wanted to cook for him. Then she walks away. Machida quietly realizes she may have just ruined something.
Here I am, know it's been